Lauren and Doreen, stand and let us say thank you. Best decision you made, wasn't it? Anybody else want a top 60? Anybody else going for 60? Just one more word about tonight. Tonight, the eating season is upon us. We'll have tables and chairs throughout the sanctuary. Hopefully some of you will help set them up. If you're visiting with us and would like to feel like this is your home church, feel welcome to help us set up tables and chairs after the service. We are providing the meat, and I think we've got some industrial strength beans that we're going to serve, but we're trusting you to bring all of the side dishes. You know, important things like deviled eggs, pecan pies, and that's about it. Anything else you want to bring is fine, just as long as we have some of those essential things. And we'll have a great night tonight. And then afterwards, tonight, we're going to be decorating the sanctuary for the Christmas season. So we've got wreaths and trees and decorations to put up. So it's going to be a great evening. Hope that you'll be a part of that tonight. For this last song and sermon from the series on Les Misérables, we're doing things, approaching it just a little bit differently. Instead of having a singer from SNU come, we are going to be showing a video in just a moment because there's several different people involved in this last little segment here. And just a note, the person who's going to be singing Jean Valjean in the video is Com Wilkerson, C-O-L-M, Com Wilkerson, who was the original Jean Valjean when Les Mis opened in London in 1985. And, just a footnote, he's also going to be the bishop in the movie that starts on Christmas Day, which I think all of us should go see together, or the day after Christmas, or the next day after Christmas. I'll go anytime you're going. I'll be glad to go to see it more than once. So the video that you're going to see is from the 10th anniversary celebration of Les Mis that came out in 1995. And Jean Valjean is singing, as the video opens, Jean Valjean is singing at the wedding of Marius and Cosette and praying to God on high that he would hear his prayer and bring him home. Fantine comes into the scene and welcomes from the dead, comes into the scene and welcomes Jean Valjean to heaven. Marius and Cosette come out and sing to Jean Valjean of each other. And Marius takes that opportunity to tell Cosette that it was Jean Valjean that rescued him from the barricades and brought him home, which she did not know until that point in time. Eponine comes with them and adds to the harmony as she and Fantine and Jean Valjean sing, "To love another person is to see the face of God." Wonderful statement. Wish I had more time today or another sermon to talk about that. Which brings us to the finale and the climax. You should have the song sheet, the lyrics in your bulletin. So when they come to the very end of the song, do you hear the people sing? You'll have the words to that. And if you want to sing along, feel free to do that. And so if the video is ready, we will enjoy this climax and finale for Les Misérables. Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith, Abel offered God a better sacrifice than Cain did. By faith he was commended as a righteous man, when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith he still speaks, even though he is dead. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. But for before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, Noah, when warned about the things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that comes by faith. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to another city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. By faith, Abraham, even though he was past age, and Sarah herself was barren, was enabled to become a father because he considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. And they admitted that they were aliens and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had received the promise was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, "It is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." Abraham reasoned that God could raise the dead, and figuratively speaking, he did receive Isaac back from the dead. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau in regard to their future. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and worshipped as he leaned on the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when his end was near, spoke about the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt and gave instructions about his bones. By faith, Moses. By faith, Moses' parents hid him for 3 months after he was born, because they saw that he was no ordinary child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of the Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God, rather than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a short time. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. By faith, Moses left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because, get this line, he saw him who is invisible. He saw him who can't be seen. By faith, he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. By faith, the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land, but when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell, after the people had marched around them for 7 days. By faith, the prostitute Rahab, because she had welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. And what shall I say? I'm running out of time. I have no more time to tell you about Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah and David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the sword, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. Women received back their dead, raised to life again. Others were tortured and refused to be released so that they might gain a better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, while still others were chained and put in prison. They were stoned. They were sawed in two. They were put to death by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, and mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, and in caves and holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what was promised. God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us, now that it's our turn, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run our leg of the journey with perseverance, the race that is marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and then sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you and I will not grow weary or lose heart. This is the word of the Lord. Can you hear those heroes of the faith? It was very tempting to want to just fast forward through all that long chapter. I wanted to read the whole thing for you and for myself. Can't you hear these heroes of the faith? Can you hear this great cloud of witnesses singing out to us this morning? Will you join in our crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me? Somewhere beyond the barricade, is there a world that you long to see? Do you hear the people sing? Say, do you hear the distant drums? It is the future that they bring when tomorrow comes. All of these men and women of the faith in Hebrews chapter 11 had eyes of faith to see a world that nobody else could see. They could see a world out beyond the barricades of trials and troubles and tragedy. They believed that if they would be faithful to do the right thing and believe the right thing, that God would take care of all of the other stuff, even if they didn't get to inherit all of the promise that they were hoping to inherit. They believed that if they would do the right thing, God would take care of all the rest. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. I'm not going to read the whole thing again, just this one part of Moses. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God, rather than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a short time. He regarded disgrace for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of Christ, as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. By faith he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw what is invisible. He could see that which was unseeable. Moses gave his whole life walking to a different drum, walking toward a different drum. Moses could see a land that nobody else could see, and while almost everybody else around him was complaining and murmuring and being divisive and causing trouble, Moses always kept his eye on a distant land, a new land, a land that is still out there waiting for all of us. And he kept leading his people amidst all the divisiveness. Sometimes he was the only one who could see where they were going. Sometimes he was the only one who could hear that different drum. Moses was the one that kept them moving forward. Moses was the one that shepherded them all the way home. Throughout 35 years of ministry, and I think I counted up serving in 6 different churches, I have watched gracious, faithful, optimistic, visionary, hopeful people who filled the congregations that I served with grace and peace. Last night, Cheryl and I talked our way through some of those names of the great heroes of faith that we have been blessed to serve with. It's like they could see another world. It's like they could see beyond the current situation, whether it was good or bad. And they walked to a different drummer. They could see things that nobody else could see. And they would keep us on track as a congregation. The drumbeat that they heard, that they kept reminding us about. Heroes like Don Quixote, who could look at an ugly Aldanza and see a beautiful Dulcinea. Do you have names and faces of people in your past that you would put in your Hall of Fame? People in your family that just seem to live in a different world. Above all of the clutter, above all of the and there is a spirit of grace and peace about them. Can you think back to the churches that you've been a part of? And think of the heroes of the faith. People who, just to be around them, brought grace and peace to everybody that came in contact with them. I've got a few descriptive words. Let me share them with you that when I think about the people that are in my Hall of Fame, see if any of these descriptions match up with the people that you would think of. I'm reminded of the warmth of their spirit, the magnetism of their personality, usually the softness of their voice, the gentleness of their smile, the tenderness of their laughter, the wisdom of their words, the availability of their time, and especially the authenticity of their motives. Do you have any names and faces that go with those kinds of descriptions? People that you think of, the heroes that are in your Hall of Fame? These people seem to live in a different world, or at least see into a different world, because their life just goes to a different drum in a very positive way. All of us need people like that. Amen? And I wonder if some of us could even aspire to become people like that. Instead of being controlled by the negative influence of some of our friends, could we choose to be people who would find ways to give grace and peace? Instead of demanding our way and defending our turf, could we find ways to give grace and peace? Instead of trading punches with our wife or our ex-wife, with our husband or our ex-husband, could we find ways to give grace, peace? Instead of passing judgment and hurtful words, could we find ways to give grace and peace to those that we come in contact with? Instead of too often provoking our children to wrath, could we as parents find ways to give grace and peace? And for our teenagers, could we find ways, instead of dishonoring and disobeying our parents, find ways, even as a 15-year-old, to give grace, peace? Instead of being mean, ugly, and grumpy, and demanding, I want that last deviled egg. Could we find ways of giving grace and peace? Instead of finding subtle ways of being manipulative, condescending, could we be people who would give grace and peace to anyone that we come in contact with? Instead of being worn to a frazzle by the constant negativeness and the divisiveness of our culture, could we be the person in our circle of influence who would find ways of giving grace and peace? Oh, Pastor, that's an awful hard thing you're asking us to do. How in the world are we supposed to do that? Well, to do that, it's going to take a way that is out of this world. To live that kind of life of grace and peace, you have to be able to see Him who is unseeable. You have to have faith in that which is unprovable. You have to hope for a world that doesn't yet exist. You have to believe in a tomorrow that hasn't yet come. The title for this series of sermons from Les Mis has been A Revolution of Grace. And it's taken me all the way to this last sermon to invite you to be a part of a revolution of grace. I'm sort of slow like that. A revolution of grace all comes down to this last song. This entire series has been an attempt on my part to invite you and me to be people of grace and peace. And by doing so, create a revolution wherever we go in our world. Because of our bent toward sin, especially mine, too many times my default mode is to you act like that and I'll knock your block off. I know how to live that life. My daddy taught me not to start a fight, but he taught me how to finish it. And that is very much my default mode of operation. Because of that, I desperately need this song, these songs, and this stunning musical to call me back again and again and again to the graceful life of Jean Valjean. and especially to the very simple gift of grace and peace that the old bishop gave to Jean Valjean. That started the whole process. That was then multiplied hundreds of times throughout the life of Jean Valjean. I desperately want to be like this old bishop. I'm not like that, but I want to be. And I want to invite you to be Jean Valjean's. And so on this last Sunday of Les Misérables, will you join in our crusade? Who will be strong? Stand with me. Somewhere beyond the barricade, is there a world that you'd like to see? Do you hear the people sing? Do you hear the distant drum? It is the future that they bring when tomorrow comes. I invite you, I urge you, to be a part of a revolution of grace. Now, revolutions don't go very good when it's just one person. It takes a whole bunch of persons to make a revolution happen. And so to close this morning and to close the series, I'm asking us to sing a song that we used to sing some time ago. I don't think we've sung it for a while. I think the words are going to be on the screen. It's entitled The Servant Song. It goes like this. Brother, let me be your servant. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I will have the grace to let you be my servant too. We are pilgrims on a journey. We are brothers on the road. We are here to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. I will hold the Christ light for you. In the nighttime of your fear, I will hold my hand out to you. Speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping. When you laugh, I'll laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we've seen this journey through. So when we sing to God in heaven, we shall find such harmony, born of all we've known together, of Christ's love and agony. So brother, let me be your servant. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I would have the grace to let you be my servant. Stand together with me. We're just going to sing a cappella this beautiful old hymn. Brother, let me be your servant. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We are pilgrims on a journey. We are brothers on the road. We are here to help each other walk the mile and share the load. I will hold the Christ light for you in the nighttime of your fear. I will hold my hand out to you. Speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping. When you laugh, I'll laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we've seen this journey through. When we sing to God in heaven, we shall find such harmony, born of all we've known together, of Christ's love and agony. Back to the first verse. Brother, let me be your servant. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I will have the grace I have the words. Let's pray.